Welcome to the Dan Casper Show podcast, your chance to catch the full show anytime, anywhere. If you missed it live on the radio, no worries. We've got you covered with all the sports talk, opinions, interviews, and conversations from the show. From the Packers to the Brewers to the biggest stories in sports and around Wisconsin, it's all right here. This is the Dan Casper Show podcast. All right, here we go. The second hour kicks off right now on this Friday, the 13th. If you are superstitious, be careful out there. We've got some local sports roundup coming up in just a little bit. Brandon Berg will be joining us to break down girls state basketball. We've got boys basketball. We'll find out who's going to be making state coming up this weekend. Still quite a few local teams alive and still alive for a chance to go down to Madison for some state basketball. So we got that. We've got a little cream of the crop. We've got some pump the brakes, full throttle. We're going to get back to some Brewers chat as well. But we kick off this hour catching up with one of our favorites, Dr. Austin Crowe, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. Good morning, sir. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Just coming off a big win last night for the old Regis Ramblers.
That's right.
They kept it alive. So, yeah, my son's on the team. So, it's pretty exciting win last night.
Yeah. Is it Clear Lake they're going up against, if my memory serves?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Clear Lake on Saturday, as long as we can dodge a blizzard.
Yeah, no kidding, right? Wow. So, well, best of luck. Tell them we said best of luck. So,
appreciate it.
I want to start off, actually, with a little bit of baseball, because I know we were talking about Quinn Priester the last time we chatted, and Pat Murphy, manager Pat Murphy, kind of told the media yesterday what it is. So Quinn Priester apparently visited a specialist, Dr. Gregory Pearl, down in Dallas, Texas, and he was diagnosed with, Pat Murphy calls it, in that thoracic outlet syndrome family. They're hoping it doesn't require surgery, but they're still kind of in a wait-and-see mode. Can you kind of explain what that is or what that issue is?
Yeah, so thoracic outlet syndrome is a condition. It can either be neurologic or vascular, meaning it's either pinching of the artery going down the arm or the nerves going down the arm. But basically, as the nerves or artery exit your chest and neck and go down in, basically under your shoulder girdle, under your clavicle, as they travel through there, they can either get pinched by, it can either be like thick or hypertrophic muscles. Some people have a cervical rib, because normally your ribs only come off your thoracic spine. Some people have what's called a cervical rib. Whatever the cause, it basically pinches or obstructs that area. So whether, again, it's the nerves or the artery, they're getting pinched as they go down the arm. So it can cause varying symptoms, but generally it'll be some level of pain going down the arm, often with like overhead or outreach activity, because that position tends to put tension and compresses that area more. So certainly in a throwing arm on a pitcher, that would be highly concerning. So especially if he has a real like physical obstruction, so let's say a cervical rib, you can't stretch a cervical rib away. I mean, it's there, right? I mean, there's a piece of bone that's there. And I mean, it's not like this like weird pathology. I mean, a fair number of people have them, but if it starts pinching, it's hard to get that to go away. Now, sometimes it's what are called the interscalene muscles, and those sometimes you can stretch out and make a little more room. But occasionally a surgeon, now this is usually done by a thoracic surgeon, they'll go in and either remove the cervical rib or sometimes debulk that muscle to open up space for the nerves and artery to go through. So that being said, surgery is definitely the last resort. So we always try physical therapy to work on, again, some different modalities of stretching and more or less open that space up to decrease the impingement and compression.
So I was trying to look up some instances of this, and there was, Zach Wheeler, and I'll ask you if this is kind of maybe the next thing potentially for Priester if physical therapy doesn't work out. It says Zach Wheeler required decompression surgery for TOS last September to remove a blood clot near his right shoulder along with his first rib. Is that kind of a normal, if this doesn't work out for Priester and that, I mean, could blood clots be an issue that pops up with that?
Yeah, that's one thing that you can see is that with the compression of, whenever there's a major artery, there's a vein with it. They just always run in pairs. So you'll have the vein running through there as well. And so compression can cause obstruction of flow, which then in turn increases the risk of a clot. So I wouldn't say it's a classic finding, but you can certainly see that. And if one's been chronically impinged or pinched, you can sometimes see clots form. And so, yeah, that would be a potential. So that same idea is like you're opening that area up. So whether it's a muscle or bone or a rib, whatever you have to do, that would be the next step if it comes to it. And it tends to work, but it's a fairly invasive surgery because you're kind of opening up the side of the neck into kind of the junction between your neck and your clavicular area.
So I know a lot of fans are probably asking, well, why did it take this long for if this was something he was dealing with last year, and why didn't they catch it earlier in the off season and such? Is this kind of maybe hard to diagnose? Is it one of the last things that maybe, people kind of look for with an injury like this?
Yeah, absolutely. It is. I mean, because there's not really an easy, definitive diagnosis. On physical exam, there's a couple different tests you can do where you're basically looking at like bringing the arm up and out. If it's vascular, that one is fairly predictable. So like you'll bring the arm in this really hyper abducted, externally rotated position. And if they lose the pulse in the arm, it's because the artery is getting pinched. So that one you can diagnose if it's a vascular compression. The problem is the neurologic, you can't tell that. So it's not like you pinch the nerve and it hurts, but it's like, is that really it? So it is a little bit non-specific. So with a lot of the things that we do now, you can do some dynamic ultrasounds where they actually do movements and visualize the area and look for it. But even then it's subjective. So absolutely, this is a tricky diagnosis and one that is often almost more of an exclusionary diagnosis where it's like, look, we figured it's not this, it's not this, it's not this. Okay, now we've kind of landed on thoracic outlet. So yeah, not an easy diagnosis and something that we do see for sure, but it's not something we see every day. And again, it's hard to really pinpoint it.
As switching over to basketball, I'm not sure if you've been kind of watching some of the conference tournaments and such, but in the Big 12, they've got, they did now, they're switching out a glass floor at the Big 12 tournament, and a guard, Texas Tech guard Christian Anderson, strained a muscle while slipping on this new glass floor, and apparently they're removing it and such. But as somebody in your position, when you see a glass floor in basketball, do you kind of cringe at the I mean, that doesn't feel safe with like people slipping and pulling muscles, or for God forbid if it breaks or something like that.
I mean, obviously it's very different. I'm sure there's some logic to why they did it. Or maybe they just did it to be different and get media attention because obviously we're here talking about it.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, certainly I would imagine it's very high tensile strength and very hard to break, but that would be a disaster. In the surface, I would imagine, I mean, if you just think of glass, if it gets wet, I would imagine it would be very slippery compared to wood floors that often have kind of like almost like a wax or sealant layer. I guess I don't have any real definitive quantitative answer for is it better or worse, but I think at face value, I would say that doesn't sound like a great idea.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I know
like the potential complications. Yeah.
I know they can do, I know it's, they could do like fancy graphics and stuff like that, but I'm like, now we're just feel like we're getting too cute at times with stuff like that.
Yeah. So. I mean, at that point, you're like, okay, are we missing, the whole, it's like, let's not change the game for that kind of stuff,
Right. Staying with college basketball, looking over to number one Duke, their starting point guard, Caleb Foster, suffered a fractured right foot this past Saturday, and the next morning he already had surgery on that right foot, and they're saying that he's going to be out for the foreseeable future, which kind of puts into question his availability for the for the NCAA tournament. But just kind of, watching his, reaction, or when the injury happened, he was going after a loose ball and then kind of, stopped at mid-court and such. But when you hear fractured right foot and then surgery the next day, what are some of those possibilities that could have happened?
I mean, most common would probably be a metatarsal. So they didn't say ankle, so we're not thinking it's anything, in the tibia or talus or fibula. So I mean, most likely it's going to be in that, kind of 4-foot area. A midfoot fracture, so like a navicular or cuboid, those would be bad fractures. So I really hope it's not that, because those tend to heal slowly. They can cause trouble. So I would say, again, if I had to bet, I would say it's a metatarsal fracture. Now, if you talk about metatarsal fractures, they often heal really well, with one notable exception, the Jones fracture, right? So the Jones fracture, which we talked about in the past, that's been one that, I mean, a lot of famous athletes have had. Kevin Durant had it, for example. That's in the fifth, so the outer one, so your pinky toe, if you will. You follow your pinky toe up. The base of it, there's the metatarsal. If you run all the way up towards where it kind of joins the midfoot, right in that what we call the metaphyseal flare, that area has very poor blood supply. So if you break in that area, we are quick to operate on those, especially in an athlete, because we want to maximize the odds of it healing correctly. But for example, back to Kevin Durant, he ended up having to have at least 2, maybe 3 surgeries on that. And so Jones fractures are not great. So again, I don't know which one his is. Usually they will disclose if it's a Jones, I think, just because enough people know what that is. And they're just calling this a foot fracture. So maybe it's just a displaced metatarsal fracture. And they just played it. If that's the case, it should heal. 4 to 6 weeks, I would think he'd be back. The thing is, we see athletes come back with like metacarpal, so in the hand, metacarpal fractures more quickly. But the thing is, you don't run on your hands, you run on your feet. So it'd be hard to imagine him back before a 6-week mark unless this is a really atypical fracture. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. But if I'm a betting man, something in the metatarsals, and as long as it's not a Jones, should heal really well.
Well, I saved this one for the last because I figured this is what a lot of people are going to be wondering. Maxx Crosby, with this whole weird situation that's going on with his knee. Now, I know there's been other speculation such. Somebody had mentioned that he has no cartilage in that knee, and is that a potential issue going forward here? I know I texted you when that news kind of first popped up that he failed a physical, but I guess, okay, let's say he does not have cartilage in that knee. I know some NFL players have played, like Julian Edelman, I Googled, apparently didn't have cartilage in that knee. But for somebody like, how rare would that be? And is that and I saw some people saying short term, there's no concern, but it's the long term with Maxx Crosby coming back from that surgery is the biggest issue. But from some of the stuff that you saw, what's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, so there's a lot of things are being just kind of filled in and assumed. So, the things that I have read specific to this, first off, the Raiders were very non-specific in what they said. I'm sorry, the Ravens were very non-specific. They just said he's failed his physical. We're not going through the trade. They didn't say anything else. They haven't disclosed any other information. They did have their own team physician. They actually even had him see Dan Campbell, who's actually out of Dallas, who's ironically the Cowboys team doctor. He gave a second opinion on this. So just to give it context, he is 8 weeks out from a meniscus repair, which is an interesting time because the meniscus won't be fully healed by then. So, when they're looking at it, it sounds like it's unlikely the meniscus, unless they re-MRI and it looks like the repair's already failed, and they're saying, okay, the meniscus is going to at least need one more surgery. But if you take it a step further, the doctor who performed the surgery, his name's Neil Elatrash, he's out of L.A. So Neil came out and made a statement saying, I think Max is doing great. This is his doctor. So he's like, I think Max is doing great. The knee's healing well. But then he said this specifically, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't have it in front of me, but it was like, he's recovering from the meniscus, but he also had bony edema and some cartilage issues, but he's recovering well. So as soon as you bring up that word cartilage issue, that is absolutely open Pandora's box. So cartilage issue can be this mild, we use the term chondromalacia, so it's like a little fissuring, mild amount of cartilage changes. That could mean nothing for now and won't affect until he's like a 60 or 70-year-old, okay? So that's one thing. If he starts having areas of full thickness cartilage loss, so like a real deep cartilage injury where he's missing an area, that could become very symptomatic that he might be able to play through, but would probably limit him. And certainly has the potential to become a much bigger problem. And then you can have areas where it's like a large area of cartilage injury. Then you're talking about like now it's career threatening, where it's like I'm not saying he wouldn't play again, but he'll never be the same player he was before. So it's one of those things. It's like there's such a spectrum of cartilage injuries. So it could be mild and not a big deal. It could be without a doubt career threatening, and we just don't know. Obviously Neil, his doctor, is saying it sounds like it's going to progress okay, but of course he's going to say that, one would think. So, reading between the lines, again, this is also me making assumptions. If the Ravens said no, I'm guessing it was at least a full thickness defect, if not more. So if you're talking about a small to large cartilage injury, yeah, that absolutely threatens both the short and long-term career, especially when you're putting 2 first-round picks. You're not going to roll the dice on that too hard, I wouldn't think. So, again, tons of speculation going on. We're trying to make guesses based on what's being said, but and then there's a lot of people are saying, oh, the Ravens just wanted to back out from their 2 draft choices. I mean, is that possible? I suppose, but I think it's more likely that there's a legitimate issue going on with either the meniscus or again, much more likely a cartilage-based injury. And those are, I mean, there's the list of NFL, NBA, MLB, whatever, you name the sport, players that have had their careers cut short by cartilage injury. The list is enormous. So it is something that we just have a challenging time, addressing. But yeah, it's again speculation, but that's kind of where I'm sitting on that topic.
Is that similar to the David Bakhtiari thing again?
Yeah, great example. So you have an ACL. Oh, guys bounce back from ACLs all the time. Absolutely, they do. You add an ACL, now you have a cartilage injury. Totally changes. I mean, and people are like, why don't they just play through the pain? I mean, the knees swell. They never get their strength back because when you have a large effusion in the knee, it's hard to get your strength back. They'll have spots that like the knee like buckles and gives out. I mean, so it's painful. It gives out. They can never get back to where they were before. So it's not so simple. So, and you kind of alluded to, like Julian Edelman having no cartilage. I mean, he may have had like a really focal spot. And the other thing too is like not all spots are created equal. So if you have it in like your patella, for example, versus like the central part of your mediofemoral condyle, so the weight bearing zone, very different. Your knees can tolerate one way better than the other. So cartilage injuries, size matters, location matters. And so, yeah, it's again, you can look at these guys and there's been so many careers cut short by this. And I mean, hopefully someday we'll have, hey, let me give you this, stem cell injection to your knee. It's going to grow new cartilage. You'll be back to normal in 6 weeks. Awesome. We just don't have that technology. So really, I spend a lot of my day dealing with the ramifications of injuries or just degenerative changes to the cartilage surface on, a number of joints in the body. In this case, the knee we're talking about. Someday we'll come up with a way to address it better. But, I mean, not that we don't have some options, but it's just hard. And the other thing, too, is we're not just trying to get him back like, look, let's give you a pain-free knee where you can go out and play pickleball and shuffleboard. And he's just be like, I want to go back and, try push 300-pound men around and try tackle a quarterback. I mean, you're asking to push the body to the absolute limit. And so you can't tolerate 95%. He needs to be 100% to really be what he was. So it's raising eyebrows without a doubt.
Mm-hmm. All right, before I let you go, do you like your team picking up Kyler Murray yesterday?
Yes, I do. I mean, I think this wasn't a year with these, 5 different franchise quarterbacks on the free agent market. I mean, so it's not like we had this 10 guys to pick from. It's like, wow, like, which all-pro guy do we pick from, right? It wasn't a situation like that. We needed to bring someone in. The question is he going to be the starter? Is he going to push JJ? Is it going to be a competition? I mean, I hope that's what they bring him in and it creates a competition between the two. These guys are both, they're both first-round picks. They're both good athletes. They both have a lot of potential. So hopefully they can push each other. I mean, obviously you can go the other way where you create this like animosity within the quarterback room and bad blood, and then, it's not good for the team. So I could see it going poorly. But of the guys available, I preferred him out of anybody. Certainly he's got an amazing ceiling. I mean, everyone's got the jokes about how small he is, but I mean, when you see some of the plays he makes with his feet, and he's got an absolute cannon, I mean, he can be a threat. The concern, of course, is when some of the things that happen in Arizona, it's not necessarily about the physical ability. It's about his dedication to the team, his dedication to doing the off-season work. Those are things that make you say, uh-oh. But I will say this. I mean, he's on a 1-year contract. He's going to be a free agent. I mean, there's statistical analysis. If you look at athletes on their contract year, they always have their best seasons because they know it's on the line. So I don't think you're going to get anything less than his best effort. So, yes, I like it. I realize that was a long-winded answer. Yes, I like it, but there's still some concern with it, but I guess we'll see. We didn't have a ton of other options.
Right. Well, he's Dr. Austin Crowe, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. Dude, appreciate the time, as always. Great stuff, and tell the kiddo best of luck on the court this weekend.
Appreciate it. You have a great one.
You got it. There you go. There's Dr. Austin Crowe, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. Awesome stuff, as always, with the doc. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll bring in Mr. Brandon Berg coming up after these quick words. comes to fresh, convenient, and delicious, Hy-Vee in Eau Claire has got you covered. From fresh produce and premium meats to bakery favorites and ready-to-go meals, everything you need is under one roof. Planning some dinner tonight or maybe grabbing some lunch on the run? Stocking up for the week? Hy-Vee makes it simple. A store that feels like your neighborhood market, just a bit bigger. Plus, with daily and weekly deals and seasonal specials, there is always something new to discover. Heck, they've got a Friday the 13th sale going on today, too. Hy-Vee in Eau Claire, where there is a helpful smile in every aisle. Good morning, Brandon.
Good morning. We got some Friday the 13th type of weather going on outside.
Yeah. So, is it really windy out? When I opened a door, it felt like it was really windy.
You had some trouble closing the door, so
yeah,
it's breezy.
Yeah. So, and it's going to be this weekend too. So
yeah, this is going to be a very interesting weekend as far as what weather goes, especially obviously Saturday night into Sunday.
Do you think? We could get to it coming up in a little bit for our local sports, but maybe keep an eye on online for teams that potentially have late games.
I think that a lot, what you're going to see, and you're already starting to see it, but I think a lot of those boys basketball sectional championship games that potentially could have been at 7 o'clock on Saturday might get bumped up.
Yeah.
I've already seen, I think, like Regis and Clear Lake's game. I think that's at 1. Like, I think you're going to see a lot of those games probably at 1 just because obviously that allows more teams and fans to kind of go travel and then get back home before whatever we got coming our way really starts to get here.
Right, exactly, because you can't really delay it. These games,
no. You have to get it done before.
Yep, exactly. So we'll do some local sports roundup coming up here. Let's shoot for about 7:45 here for that. So before we get to that, I want to talk some Brewers with you, Brandon. So I was just talking to Dr. Crow about Quinn Priester's injury and such, and Pat Murphy had talked about probably going to begin the year on the injured list and such. But I mean, I guess it's kind of a little prelude to a little pump the brakes full throttle. Feels like the Brewers are in a better position right now to kind of fill that void than maybe they were last year if this was the case here because of all their arms.
Right. So. When last year you had Elvin Gonzalez starting the home opener, and I mean you were kind of throwing some stuff against the wall just to kind of get out of the gates.
Right.
So I think now you can definitely see and understand, if you didn't already, what the plan was as far as just stockpile a bunch of arms because you just don't know. Mm-hmm. And you don't know what's going to develop once spring training gets underway. And obviously this is something that was lingering, but still.
Right.
You've got enough that you can handle a couple guys potentially if it comes to that being out to start the year.
Mm-hmm. I was talking a little bit earlier this week. How impressive has Harrison been in his limited outing so far?
I think you're seeing exactly what you were hoping for because the big thing for him is adding in the kick change, a changeup, which is a bit like a splitter, but not quite, but still like the swing and miss stuff being there. I mean, he kind of throws from a weird arm or a different arm angle, which kind of can be tough for hitters to pick up on and. That was kind of the thing. It's like, well, what can you do as for an off-speed offering? And that's just something I think he just found in the offseason before he even got traded to Milwaukee. So he kind of showed up and said, hey, I have this thing. And then the Brewers saw him and were kind of like, oh, that's cool. But, yeah, I mean, that's, especially for, the guy that was the most prominent part of the Caleb Durbin trade, he's going to probably have some extra eyes on him just because people are saying, okay, well, this is there's other people in the trade obviously, but he's the one that was without a doubt the crown jewel, so to speak, and
right.
He's striking a bunch of people in spring training. I mean, there's still obviously he's giving up some runs, but it's spring, so I think spring is always it can be difficult because you want to see results, but at the same time you kind of want to see how people kind of go about maybe trying to get those results.
Right. So, it looks like he potentially could be in line to be in that starting rotation. With Priester out, I've seen maybe it's an Aaron Ashby. I've seen Brandon Sproat's name mentioned on there. I know Pat Murphy mentioned his name too. We have not heard of an opening day starter at this point. I don't want to downplay because I think it's more of a ceremonial thing here, but I mean, do you really care who the opening day starter is?
Not really.
This point? Yeah.
Not really. I mean, it's exciting for when it gets announced and for that day.
Yeah.
But ultimately, there's 160 more or 161 more of them, and yeah, I mean, it's just
maybe if you're going to the game as a fan, you're like,
right.
I hope it's Miz or something.
Yeah, and the lineup kind of gets all jumbled around and stuff anyway. Well, this person's missing a starter; they're bumping this, this start back, so it just month or two into the year, I mean, it really doesn't matter. But for ceremonial reasons, and I don't know, it's just always kind of about kind of putting that best foot forward right away. You kind of like to, as much as, opening day is one of 162, like in that moment, it always feels so much more than that.
Yeah.
Like you always kind of have to have that talk with myself at the start of every year. It's like, okay, look, and last year was a great example, starting 0-4. It's like, look.
Especially the way they started.
Well, exactly. Like, you lose your first 4 games in that fashion. It's kind of like, okay, look, it's not the end of the world as we saw. So,
Yeah. So, I mean, it seems like, and I know we've talked about this off and on, Brandon, too, but it really seems like, we're getting close, less than 2 weeks from opening day, and we've got roster projections and such. It's a lot of the same guy. Like, I know you've mentioned it time again. It's like, how many really, starting spots are on this roster? And it feels like that's going to be the case here.
And I think really, I mean, the big question is just going to be, at the very least, at the start of the year, how does the rotation look? Who is, obviously now we can kind of figure Quinn Priester's not going to be in it to start the year. So it's like, okay, well, that's another spot for somebody else. And who makes the rotation ultimately kind of probably has an impact on who makes the bullpen to start the season, and that will change, but still. But yeah, as far as the position players go, I don't think there's really much of a battle there. I mean,
right.
we've talked about the spring Tyler Black has had, but Jake Bauers also had a really good spring. Like Jake Bauers has done nothing to kind of possibly kind of let go of the grip on that backup first baseman / in case of need, break for corner outfielder position.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Brandon Lockridge has had a really good spring too, but Blake Perkins has not been bad either.
Right.
So it's like, you think, okay, could Lockridge push? But because I think both those guys just have one more option,
something like that. Yeah. So they can both get sent down to the minors. So it's not like you feel like you have to keep it one or the other, but
right. But hey, I'd rather have better options or good options or tough options to choose from here. But it sure kind of seems like it's already kind of almost set in stone, knock on wood, no injuries, for that sort of thing. But I mean, let me throw this one out there with the World Baseball Classic going on and such. I wonder how many Brewers fans are like, when can we get Andrew Fisher up? I mean, because he has been raking for Team Italy right now.
Right.
So.
And he's someone I was texting with some friends during that game on Wednesday night. And it was like, well, it's kind of funny because he's the one right now that it's like, oh yeah, he's also a Brewer. Obviously there's been a lot of talk with other guys, and rightfully so this spring, but he's the guy that is doing this at obviously at the WBC level after doing this in the minors last year. And it's just like, oh yeah, by the way, this is a guy that's maybe a year or two away as well. Like in amongst all of the other riches of the Jesus Mades and the Luis Peñas and the Cooper Pratts and all that.
Yeah, Jet Williams.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's going to be interesting in the next couple of, not to get too far ahead, but it is definitely going to be interesting how they fit all of these guys on this ball club. So, but yeah, not, for third base, I'm excited, hot credit to him. I mean, for a guy, drafted just last year and playing in this moment too. So really cool to see. All right. We got to take a quick break, but plenty more to get to. We'll be right back after these few words. Before we get to a little local sports roundup, really quick reminder, we're doing podcasts a little bit different now. So 2 podcasts we need you to follow and subscribe. If you want to listen, re-listen, if you missed the show or missed portions of the show, they are now up on the DK Show podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts. Just started yesterday, so already kind of changed. It's a new program, new thing working on here, so yesterday's entire show came up in one episode, and I realized that's like 3 hours, 3.5 hours. So I should probably turn your mic on. Sorry about that.
So that's how it is, huh?
It is. That is how it is. So going to do it hour by hour. So the first hour is already up. So second hour will be up after we're done. We're going to do it that way. Figured that seems better, right? More efficient. Yeah. But Man Cave Podcast isn't going away. In fact, it's going to be more new stuff, original stuff, off-the-wall stuff, because Bray and I are going to talk about Bigfoot later on today. Because you sent me a news thing. Morgan sent me the same exact news thing. So it's like, all right, we need to hit this up.
We need to have this discussion. This is Bigfoot weather right now.
It is.
Isn't it?
It's like Yeti. We'll break it all down.
Yeah.
So I am genuinely curious how many people believe in Bigfoot. I don't even know if you do, and don't tell me right now.
Okay.
I don't even know if you do. So, but yeah, so go up DK Show Podcast. DK Show Podcast. It's available Apple, Spotify, YouTube, the same YouTube channel as well. So it's going to be hour by hour every day. That way you don't have to the 3.5 hour Titanic version of the podcast episode. So with that, let's do a little local sports roundup brought to you by Carpet City Flooring Center. Do you want to start with girls basketball? Yesterday, Neillsville picking up the win. So they move on to the state championship game. But, I actually was watching that because I was at a baseball board meeting and was up on the TV. So I get to actually watch that. Really, I know what you talk about, but defense.
Yes, I mean, Neillsville, that team is all about defense, always has been under Coach Geyer. And, I mean, you see in the postseason. I mean, I would like to, if I haven't for this, but I would like to go and look and see in their wins, especially since the regional finals, like every team they've beaten, I'm curious to see if that's one of the lowest point totals that opposing team has scored. With McDonald, I know scoring in the lower 30s, it probably is. Regis, I would think it would be as well. Cameron, we'd have to see. And then beating Lomira last night 58-31. I mean, if you're at state, generally, you're probably not having too many games where you're scoring 31 points. So I think that's probably a safe estimation. Now, they are set up. They will play tomorrow in the second game of the day for the state championship against Albany Monticello, who is who is a co-op, but they have one of the best mascots.
Oh boy!
Because
what is it?
I believe, if I remember correctly, individually, one of them is the Comets, and one of them was like the ponies.
Okay.
Or they're like the Mustangs or something like that. So I believe their co-op's mascot is the Space Ponies.
That's awesome.
So you just combine what. The two mascots you have. I mean, that in the last few years, that's been a team that's been pretty consistently at state. I believe they won the Division 5 title a couple of years ago now in D4. Obviously, they're gonna be the next team to kind of take a shot at Neillsville. But either way, that's a state championship game. I mean, that'll be coming up. The other one in Division 3 will be Oostburg and Wisconsin Dells. A couple unbeaten teams, so that's kind of cool to see. Obviously, one of them will stay unbeaten and one won't. But we're gonna get back going here in a little over an hour.
Yeah.
Down in or over in Green Bay with the first semifinal, which is Leva Strum and Fall River. Leva Strum has really, just kind of run roughshod through this, through this postseason field so far. 29-0.
Is that record for Fall River a little deceiving? It says 17-11.
Probably. Yeah. I mean, I think, look, you get to stay at, you're a better, you're
there for a reason.
Right. But still, I mean, I have no doubt that team has, the attention of Coach Huzica and that Cardinals team. So I'm very interested to see, how that team kind of comes out and plays. I mean, first time I think since 2008 that they've been to state. So looking for I believe their first win at state. So
okay.
And then they'll meet either Pacelli or Barneveld in the second semi. And then this afternoon, obviously another one that teams around here will be keeping an eye on Rice Lake. They're a 1 seed as well. They got Beaver Dam. Rice Lake making it back down there. Last year they were a 4 seed, lost in the semis. This year they're the 1 seed, and that combination of Schmidt and Shepley at the top obviously is going to have. I'm sure it has Beaver Dam's attention, but the team has been really firing on all cylinders here. I would say not just the postseason, but the last month or two. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can kind of take that next step. And then otherwise, tonight the Division I games as well, and then tomorrow all day. Yep. So those you can find those games to watch locally, and on TV
and the girls' season will be wrapped up.
It will be. So
then over to the boys' side, we had games last night, and
we did. Let's start Division II.
Okay.
A team that we haven't really talked too much about, but a team that's still alive, Menominee.
Yeah.
They've picked up a couple wins. Really, I mean, Menominee, New Richmond. Not sure if that was the what people thought would be the section, but obviously that's a conference rematch from the regular season, and Menominee took care of business. So we talk a lot about kind of River or Rice Lake and the the benefits they have as a smaller team playing in the big rivers, and I think in this case this is what you kind of do with Menominee as well. I mean, that's a Division II team playing in a conference full of several Division I teams, and a lot of credit to, Coach Greg Van Grunsven. I mean, he's a real veteran of, coaching in this area. Coached at Memorial for a long time, coached at Bloomer for a while. Has had a lot of success. And, that's a team that's kind of being the best version of itself right now. And it's, it's the last Big Rivers team standing.
Yeah.
So now they got a chance to go to state. They play tomorrow afternoon. That's a 1:00 game in Arcadia against West Salem. A team that is no stranger to still being alive in the postseason at this time. West Salem picked up a win over across Central.
Mm-hmm.
They beat Alaska the round before, so they've knocked off the top 2 seeds in their half of the tournament. But for Menominee to be able to kind of get on this run here, Menominee is they've got a lot of experience at state, but it's been a little bit. I think
since 2006,
yeah. The last time they've been down there. So,
and before that was 86. That was when I was born.
And they were dominating those in the early years, but so they've obviously got a big chance to maybe go make some history tomorrow afternoon. So,
yep.
Division III. Last night the game I was at was Stanley Boyd and GET. Great game. As you can tell, high scoring game, but 2 just outstanding teams that were kind of making life difficult for the other team. But ultimately, GET picks up the 90-80 victory. So. GET will play at North tomorrow. That game, I don't think there's a time on that quite yet, but they'll get St. Croix Central, who picked up a last-second win over Osceola, and that's actually a rematch from the regular season. They had played in January, and GET picked up a win there. So, you always kind of wonder about regular season, rematches in the postseason, especially with non-conference teams that don't know each other too much.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be very interesting to see there. GET looking to kind of breakthrough, and that's a team that the last few years has really been on the doorstep. But a team that made it to state here 2016, so it was obviously a decade ago. But a team that has a program that has a pretty solid track record. But that should be I think a really fun one there. So Division IV, we've got Eau Claire Regis. They're still alive. They picked up the 63-43 win over Durand last night. That game is at Eau Claire Memorial. Didn't need 56 points from Blake Rissler this time. That's still kind of crazy to think about. In a playoff game to score 56 points, but that just kind of shows the dynamic nature of that Regis team. Blake Rissler, DJ Cooper. That's a fantastic backcourt that can just really make life difficult for opposing teams. And they're going to take on Clear Lake after Clear Lake pulled away to a 78-62 win over McDonald last night in Amory. So that's a 1:00 game in Osseo. Osseo was where I was last night. That's they always do a great job hosting those neutral site games, and that was packed last night. I have a feeling it's going to be packed tomorrow too. So that should be a fun one to see if the Ramblers can break back through, or if Clear Lake. Clear Lake is a program that has been pretty consistently regional champs, knocking on the door of sectional champions. They've gone, they've been at state here within the last decade or so. So, that's a fun one right there, I think. So. And then you go to Division V, and Altoona is going to be hosting a sectional final with Turtle Lake and Prentice tomorrow. So Turtle Lake looking to get back to state.
Prentice taking down their rival last night. Lake,
you're right. Prentice has been on a roll. They knocked off Marshfield Columbus, who I think a lot of teams had kind of pegged as maybe a state tournament team. But Prentice, that's going to be a good one. And Altoona, they're another venue that always does a good job hosting things, and they'll be rocking. So. Yeah, this is, it's interesting to think of just how many teams have been knocked off since I was just in here last Friday.
Yeah.
That's just the nature of the tourney. So.
Right.
And then we've already got stuff getting going. We mentioned that track is underway with practice. Hopefully they got a little bit of outdoor practice this week. But softball starts next week, and then for baseball, pitchers and catchers are able to kind of start doing some work next week as well. So we will see what this next week of weather brings us, but.
Well, before I bring up a couple college things here, got to throw out there, too, or maybe a little surprise, Mike Sins stepping down as Menominee head football coach, too. So, you talk about, Joe Labuda there for how many years, and then Mike Sins. So this is a big opening.
Yeah, this is one that I think you're going to have a lot of people in the area that, they have their, the attention for. And Mike was obviously he's a Menominee native. He's a guy that had great success as a player there. We know coach obviously around here prior to taking the job, and Menominee did some good things there too. But now obviously it's going to be somebody else's, opportunity to kind of come in there and try to continue, a tremendous tradition that Menominee has. So yeah. So that's going to be that's
a couple Big Rivers ones, right? Menominee North still open.
Yeah. So we're gonna those are ones I think people are definitely going to kind of have their antennas up for it. Say, okay, who does that end up being? And who's the one that kind of takes it over that that program?
Right, exactly. want to go over to the Blue Golds here quick and give you a shout out too, because you actually did write an article that relates to the Blue Golds with Izzy and
Izzy
wrestling.
Bolsinger, yes, one of the 4 nationals bound Eau Claire wrestlers.
Mm-hmm.
So and Izzy's someone that I first knew about when I first got here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was a state champion in Division I in 2011, and if you're kind of doing your math in your head, and you're thinking, well, wait,
yeah,
he's 33 years old. He's someone that, he's been a very interesting story, honestly, a pretty inspirational story when you factor. I mean, he's him and his brother Martino were adopted from Haiti, when Izzy was in elementary school, learned wrestling. His brother infamously was recruited to the team from longtime Chippewa coach Tom Pometlo, and they learned. He learned a lot very quickly. And Izzy unfortunately was kind of on the business end of some home training sessions as Martino was showing him, hey, this is these are the ropes. But by the time Izzy got to high school, I mean, he was ready to go. 4-time state podium finisher. I think he finished 3rd or better in all 4 of his state tournaments, including a state championship in 2011. And he went to wrestle lacrosse for a year and had success, but ultimately was kicked off the team. And he kind of had a segment of his life where he just kind of fell out of love with wrestling. And he fell back in love with it. Credits his mom for well after the fact buying him some tickets to the state tournament, and he kind of caught the bug again. He's coaching youth organizations in Chippewa Falls, so kind of definitely shaping the next generation. I know it's something that I've talked with Chippewa Falls head coach Steve Anderson about, and he's credited Izzy for that team has really had kind of a resurgence these last few years, especially with the numbers. And part of that is getting involved at a younger age.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing it when you get to high school. So the Blue Golds, obviously a great year for them. Their first outright WIAC championship.
Yep.
They've got 4 wrestlers heading to nationals. So Coach Fader always has done a great job there, but especially kind of establishing that program with all the things, crowning national champions here in recent years. And they've got 4 guys that are going down there, and they have a chance to really make some noise. And that gets going today down in I think it's Cedar Rapids.
Yep.
So today and tomorrow that's going. I know Izzy's he's an 8 seed, I believe, for his tournament, so he'll be in action later on this morning. And he's got a chance to really kind of end his wrestling career, at least as an active wrestler, on one of the biggest stages you can think of.
Right. Yeah, it's a really great piece. Go check it out by our own Brandon Berg here at Chippewa.com. As you mentioned, got national wrestling. We got also indoor track and field, NCAA indoor championships. I know softball teams down in warmer weather right now for the Blue Golds.
Jealous.
Yep. So they're in action down there as well. We've got tennis is taking on Hamlin University as well. For some hockey, though, for Stouts, round 1 is for tomorrow for UW Stout hockey. So I know I think that's still a 7 p.m. game, so
But keep an eye on it. Yeah, if you're planning on going, just make sure you keep an eye on the schedule just to be sure.
Right, exactly. So otherwise, they've got other, they're at indoor track and field as well. Their softball team's down in Florida too. Baseball's in Florida. I know Blue Gold Baseball is going to be down in Florida next week too. So. But, yeah, definitely with that hockey one, maybe just kind of keep an eye on the times if there's a little bit of a switch or such. So that's your local sports roundup brought to you by Carpet City Flooring Center. We got to take a really quick break because we are running out of time here. So we'll be right back after these quick words.